Hello again.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I took some time this weekend to listen to the episodes that you did, episode 2 and 3, and I wanted to hear it from an objective perspective, right, as a listener. And I noticed that when I'm in more of a negative space, there's this like negativity I have about all of the teachings, and I love them. And like the big picture for me is this is the most exciting thing in my life, and I want to implement it, and I want to talk to Kim all the time. But recently I've had, and I can speak for a lot of women, like a hormonal dip right before my menstruation, and I feel like my vibration's a lot lower. My mood is like more irritable. The whole concept of the imagination, the visualization, the believing, the smiling, it's just like it feels like a mile away.
Let's do an experiment. Smile, please. It took 1 second for a fake smile to become a real one. Did you realize that?
Yes.
And it always works. That's how we manipulate our subconscious mind too. Fake it till you make it is real. It has like different life cycles. When it comes to making yourself smile genuinely, it takes 1 second. That's amazing.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that the other day, and I was at work, and I was like, and you were like, smile even though you don't want to, and I was like, I don't want to, and it felt like I needed Herculean effort to put a smile on my face. And it's so funny how the subconscious mind, or the mind in general, is just addicted to the state you're in, like whether it's positive or negative. So it's been really hard for me to access these teachings that we've been talking about, and also the Neville Goddard teachings, which I'm reading on the side, when I'm in this low mood. So I thought, let's do a talk when I'm in this lower blah state. I wanted to challenge myself, right? I wanted to, because my first instinct was, no, I don't feel like it. And I was like, no, do it when you don't feel well, because that's all manifestation time as well.
Right. Maybe I should have told you to smile against the mirror. You didn't do that, right?
No.
It's like you having an interaction with yourself, and it's powerful. We're visual people. So next time, just like at this time, we smiled at each other. That's why maybe it had a stronger effect on you smiling genuinely. So let's try it with a mirror. You put it perfectly. If we're gonna rely on our current status, whether be feeling up or down, then do we have any control over our lives? Or is it we're chemically driven in our hormones, in our whatever is going on in our nervous system? And when you realize that, you're terrified, right? Why would I let
Yeah, that's what
something
fear.
physical take over? Because we are not our minds. We have a mind, but we're not it. We have a lot more to it, right? So science can't explain how consciousness works yet, but consciousness is much bigger than the physical self or how you feel within your mind. That's why I always like using analogies. Robots don't have feelings, so they get the job done. It makes sense to get as close as possible to robots in terms of how you function. Not all the time, of course, but when you're feeling like it, when you're feeling down, let go of the feeling and imagine you're a robot for a second. So this is another practical suggestion. We mentioned the whack-a-mole game. Can you explain how these negative thoughts pop up at random times during the day?
Yeah, and there's the second part of the story, which is the money conversation we're gonna have. But it's less about negative thoughts and more about just, it's like I'm in a different dimension. It's like the girl that talked to you in episode 1 is like a different person than me, and it doesn't feel like I have control over it. So it's, I guess it ends up being thoughts like at work, it'll feel like, oh, I just don't want to be here. Like, when can I just have this? Like, why is it like this? Am I gonna be stuck here for it? And it's just like these kind of older patterns that I haven't felt at work specifically in a while. And I was like, where is that coming from? So it's a little bit like that. And the other thought is, how am I supposed to get in the feeling state of what I want and practice the future self and the becoming when I feel like so low?
That's why these things are needed. And that's why when I say count your blessings, one of them, a major one, is the fact that you're aware of all of this, right? What if you didn't know any of this? What if you have never done yoga, which helps you stay in uncomfortable physical positions for a long time? So I couldn't do that. I quit. But there are many other levels of how you can control your feelings. As an analogy, whack-a-mole relevant, right? If you see it like a game, there is a gamification for a reason. All the tech companies use it. Like you want to collect bonuses or whatever, or you want to finish a progress. Let's say your LinkedIn profile is like 40% complete. It shows you a progress bar, and 40% like is listed as like a red line. It makes you feel bad, right? You want to continue. So I think that can be applied to the way you feel. If you see it as a game, let's say you get bonuses for every anytime you catch yourself feeling down and recreating negative thoughts, oh, I have the opportunity to make 100 points, let's say $100. If someone was saying you, maybe we can make this a project, not $100 necessarily, but this exists as a game, right? When you like break the silence, our teachers used to do that. You're supposed to put $1 bill in a tip jar. So it works. And then the other kids share the collected amount or whatever. I don't remember. We don't need to be necessarily motivated by monetary things, but you can collect bonuses and let's have me as an accountability partner. And at the end of the day, you're gonna tell me how many bonus points you got that day. And we're gonna try. And it gets easier and easier. At the end, the goal is not being able to get bonuses at all. You don't feel them because subconscious mind is trainable, right? It's down there. It wants to function as a survival mechanism, but you're safe. That's why the second thing to then putting out the fires as they show up, repetition. What is it called? I forgot. Sorry. Yes, affirmation. Exactly. Yes. I guess the guy needs to use the outlet. Do you need to use it? Sorry. The second one is saying over and over again, I'm safe. Sure, go ahead. Thank you. I have to edit this part. The second thing is to remind yourself that you're safe because you are, right? You didn't share your story yet, but you won't get evicted. You won't become homeless. You won't starve. So what is the fear all about? If you think about it, if you keep asking the questions, the subconscious mind, the animal brain, the limbic brain assumes that you're going to die, which is completely wrong. Because if you keep asking yourself the questions, what is your biggest fear right now? Let me tell it for you. So your savings need to be spent in a way that you didn't foresee. And then what? You don't have any savings in your bank account. I might not be able to afford my current lifestyle. I might not be able to buy food. I might need to leave my apartment and live in the street. What happens if you live in the streets? I'm gonna die. It's not happening. We both know. So it always gets to the same point. I'm gonna die. So sometimes it takes 2 questions, sometimes 5. Everything behind our behavior, what's driving us is to survive, to be loved, to get fed, right? Actually, they're pretty basic. We're complicating things by reasoning. I tend to oversimplify in a good way when it comes to our behavior driven by the subconscious mind. So I almost completely ignore what I think and what I feel consciously because it's like a small part of me, like an inner child. I need to always parent because if I don't, he takes over and my day is ruined by a toddler.
So you have the awareness of being like, I can feel that limbic reptilian fear monger coming in now. Because I think we're so used to just hearing that thought and thinking it's real or like that fear is real. When I texted you last night, it's not really common for me to reach out when I'm not doing well. I don't really do that. That's just not my style. But I was like, I knew this was going to be like juicy for the manifestation stuff because we had the episode with Sean who had a sudden financial tragedy. And
I was almost happy to hear that.
I know. I was like, he's going to love this because we're going to make it a story and we're going to do a project. And now we're playing a game and I'm down with it. Because the fear, so I'll just explain. I own a condo. I own a 4-person condo complex. So there's 4 owners.
4 units.
There's
4 units.
I own 1 of 4. And then the condo association is made up of 4 people my age. And when I bought the house a couple of years ago, they were like, yeah, sometime we'll have to do the siding. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm gonna sign on them. And then the time has come where apparently we need to redo the siding. This is just so fucking boring. Like, whatever. Like, house stuff's so boring for me. So 3D, right? And then we got a quote and it's gonna be $100,000 split up amongst us. And I'm like, oh, there goes my emergency fund. And I find this not even, it's so on the nose from the universe that the amount that I would owe if we do agree to do this is the exact amount in my bank account right now.
She's with you. She's playing, challenging you to
and
play
I knew you would say that. So I was like, I have to reach out. And I got this news like later in the day. And you and I were talking later in the night before bed. And I was like, that's when the rumination is going to come up. And what am I going to do? All the thoughts. And you said, play whack-a-mole with every time that thought comes up. I want you to whack it. And I'm so glad we talked about that because before bed, I watched it coming up and I was like, no. And I listened to my like subliminal hypnosis, like you have all the money in the world recording. And the whack-a-mole was like happening at the same time. I was like installing new programs and like trying to beat the old ones. It was a pathetically wonderful experience.
Normally, in a situation like that, my conscious mind would wonder things like, is it just you who feel the hardship of paying this big amount? Or can't you do installments? Things like that. But it's irrelevant. That's how much I simplify things. The problem created by this situation, this conscious situation won't be resolved by the same like status of thinking. So that's why I completely ignore that part, what's going on in the physical reality, because it doesn't matter. Maybe it's this cost today and it's going to be something else tomorrow. So overall, a blanket solution is how you feel about it and how you maintain your status where you're still feeling comfortable and safe. That's much more powerful, right? We're not focused on a small thing. We do make it smaller than it is because that's how it works. But if you have $1 million, would it bother you? No. It is a possibility that you become a big millionaire, not necessarily a millionaire. If you had $200,000 in your bank account, you would still feel less uncomfortable. So it makes more sense to tap into this resourcefulness and feeling comfortable no matter what, because your subconscious mind will step in and fulfill the prophecy of resolving the problem. So that's why, like, seeing the big picture, I was watching this video today, which is again miracle of the day, because now I'm so excited about what if I follow this teaching I mentioned to you. And it says when you're tapping into this universal mind, it's like raising from the ground with an aeroplane to see a much broader horizon compared to what on the ground. You see a very small amount of data that's available on the plane were to elevate you 10,000 feet. So then the question becomes, how do I get there? And this is the main topic. I'm offering you practical advice just to help you get out of that fearful state, shut down and silence the animal. And there's a bigger force out there that is ready to help you. And when you commit, when you acknowledge it and start working with it, the most amazing thing is that it shows you signs, as it happens to me every day now, because I set a goal with the help of my subconscious, and it's showing you, come here, there's a light here, you're on the right track. I told you how the investment that I made 2 days ago doesn't make sense financially. If you look from an average standpoint, 6% of your savings spent in 2 nights, a trip or 2 nights, no one would find this financially logical, right? But I did it and I feel amazing, and I like know that I planted the goal, and it's so I feel so powerful seeing these signs. What I'm trying to do to convince your conscious is to take this step. After that, it be between me and your subconscious, because I'm just trying to get your conscious away from the equation. That's what's messing things up. And it applies to everyone because so few people are aware. Did you count your blessings? How many do you have?
Endless, so many. Yeah, way more than problems. And I have the money, right? I wouldn't be like in debt or taking out credit cards to pay it. And I think it's, yes, it all comes down to survival, but it's more like all these dreams, I guess, that I had for my savings in my nest egg, like a second property or a luxury vacation, all the things we want. Like, I feel like, I guess the fear is that all of that can't happen. The conscious mind is saying, if you spend it on this thing that you don't even fucking care about, that it's like there's resentment for that part. And then the second part is that I won't have the things I've been dreaming of. And then it makes me feel like, oh, is manifestation even real? This is the dark side. Like, I actually do believe this, that it is. But the darkest thought is, what if I'm so excited about manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption, and all the things, and it's failing me?
It fails you whether you believe it or not. It doesn't fail you whether you believe it or not. If you believe that it doesn't work, then it doesn't work for you. So it's always manifesting itself. When everything is perfect, it's easy to be happy.
Hey.
Now it makes a difference. Now you have one job to switch on purpose your way of thinking and feeling, and then you will be more satisfied. That's why I know from what you're going through, it looks and feels difficult to take on a challenge, embrace it, and play with it, and at the end just beat it. But that's what challenges are for. And the way I see it, you somehow attracted these conversations into your life, which you needed to see. And then now the game is on, and the universe is trying to take away your safety net a little bit so that it will become a real challenge. And it's if you pass the test, you'll be more powerful for it, because there will always be tests and they will grow in terms of difficulty as you become more powerful. So
Let's talk about passing tests.
yes,
The actions. I mean, you know me, I'm a Virgo, I'm very logical. I want the steps, and I'll share the steps you gave me just for last night, which was play whack-a-mole every time that thought comes up. I guess for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's a game where you hammer down a mole in it's like a carnival game. So you slash the thought You nip it in the bud. The second one was smile
Smile and say, I'm safe.
and say I'm safe, affirm I'm safe. Yeah. So would you say I continue would that be my 3 for the week? Is there like an add-on?
Just because you wanted to hear something practical, I just came up with them and I think it works. It's pretty basic. But I mean, there's a lot that we can do, especially now. Remember, I told you that when the difference between your feelings and where you want to get is bigger, it creates a bigger difference as well. When you take action, the results, the outcome is much more surprising. You feel like a miracle has happened. So my question to you, how many miracles you can remember when I ask you what felt like a miracle to you in terms of the joy and enthusiasm it brought into your life?
I think my three are getting this house in the middle of the pandemic when everyone said it was impossible to buy a house in Boston. And as a single musician, I did it and I got a great place. That's another thing I have to keep reminding myself. Yes, I have to side the thing, but I got it and it's amazing. 2 is my professorship at Berkeley, which I didn't even apply for. It was offered to me. Didn't even think it was something I would do. I didn't know if I was qualified. And then it was just like handed to me. I was like, great. And it was the hugest upgrade in my career. And then the third one it's a longer story for another episode, but I manifested an $8,000 paying gig. It was like an hour-long gig at a college, and there was a miscommunication in what I had said, or like a misprint in when I gave them the amount it would be. And he was like, great, 8K. I was like, what? And I didn't say anything. And then I ended up getting a check for $8,000 when I did not charge that at all. And that was by far like my biggest, like, what? And what's funny is all of the house I was trying to manifest, but the other 2 were things I actually wasn't trying actively to do or have.
Even if you were seeking for them or not, if your subconscious brought them to you, you did it before. And what's more important is that you can recall so you acknowledge that most people forget and they don't know, they don't realize they have all these like miracles in their lives. You've done it before multiple times, even on purpose. You can do it again. You can do much bigger, better things.
And would you say the steps on that?
I'm giving you the summary of everything that I consume. So I won't ask you to read a book right now because this guy changed my life.
Read that?
Huh?
I'll read it.
When I summarize the whole thing in 3-4 pages, I'm gonna give it to you. And you asked me, is it enough or should I do more? And yes, what I'm doing for $1 million. They might be completely different targets, but the subconscious mind works the same way. And again, once you surrender to the fact that it runs everything within your physical system, there are a lot of things, right? Nervous system production and keep this amazing system running. It makes sense to think that the same system would work to decide how we're gonna act, how we behave a certain way or another. Why wealthy people's children act differently when it comes to taking risks? So if you're acting like them, will bring the results that they get. I'm not talking about inheriting money, of course, but they are bolder people in general. So why not be like them?
I thought about that when we had our first ever interview on my Instagram, and I think about that when I'm saying, okay, what could I do to act as if and without being irresponsible with my resources? And you mentioned the thought of going into a fancy hotel and like buying a coffee, which I still haven't done yet because I got to find the right place, but I like that. And just being inclusive of experiences, places, restaurants, stores, and instead of saying that's not for me, that's for them, and instead just being like, I can have that too, right? Without necessarily spending all the money on a $700 sweater or a fancy hotel, but just spending time in the proximity of it. Do you have any other ideas that aren't irresponsible for someone that is just starting out?
It's different for everyone, but I reached out to a car rental company. I used to have a Lamborghini, right? I know what it feels like. It's not a big deal. That's exactly the state of mind I'm trying to get back into, because right now I drive a Tesla and I have a pretty old, almost vintage 7 Series BMW, which I love, but they're not expensive cars. They don't feel luxurious. So I'm gonna rent for $1,000 per day efficiently at 24 hours for the 3 days BNB destination. You might record somehow that feeling, and it's easier to get back to that feeling and reproduce it when you're feeling down or just motivate yourself to be in a better position. Especially now we can record everything, right? Videos, photos. When I look at the photos of the BNB or the fancy experience, I will easily recall that. Then it's going to be easier easy to play the game to deal with the moment. So what is it for you? I don't know. Maybe we can get away. Like you said, it doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be the feeling that we want. Money is just a tool to do the things, live the experiences that make us feel good. So that's why we should focus on the results.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm gonna be going to London and the surrounding area, and when I was booking hotels and lodging, I was like, okay, let's approach this differently than you have in the past, right? Let's not when you can go to Expedia or something and you go like low to high to low, right, of price. So like, usually I would be like, what's the lowest price, and let's see if it's shitty. And I'm like, I don't want to live like that. That's not my future self.
Everyone is like that, by the way. It's not just you.
I know.
If you let yourself, that's the normal average behavior.
Exactly. And side note, I'll finish that, but I saw someone talking about a book by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil, which is apparently all about how to exist with this frequency of consciousness in a world that doesn't, in a world that says what's the cheapest option and keeps saying things are expensive and collects the coupons and wants the deal, which is nothing wrong with that, but this is how we're programmed, right? That's a book that apparently is about that I'm excited to read. And so I realized I had some points on my credit card, and it was like, what about the Hilton? And I was like, I wouldn't have looked at the Hilton. I just wouldn't have. And it was a little more than I would have usually spent, and it had good reviews, and it was I was like, you know what? I want it exactly where the train is. I want it exactly in the center. And I was like, that feels luxury to me, to not have to take a cab to a train. And I was like, booked it. And then I did the same thing when I went to Glastonbury. I was like, I'm going to spend a little more money for the fancy place. And I have the money, and I'm going to look at the experience of what that'll feel like when I'm there. And even Sean, who's moving to London, was like, do you want to go? I was like, where should I stay? She goes, there's this spot, there's the really posh spot. And I was like, tell me where that is, because I'm sure as hell going to go. And I'm going to have coffee there, and I'm going to have dinner there, and I'm going to wear a cute dress, and I'm going to pretend that I belong there, because I do.
Perfect. Yeah. Remember, I said with every action that you take, you're giving your subconscious a powerful message. So the answer to your question lies here. How safe is it to give the message that I'm about to give? It has a wide range of things that you can be doing, right? Flipping coupons, eating at McDonald's, those are not nice things to give as a message to your subconscious. Then you would feel like the person that feels at that level. So without breaking the bank, yours is a perfect example, small upgrade, because then not right away. That's the problem. We want to see results right away. But without you noticing it, you would act differently because of the feeling that you during your London trip. So if you take notes, that's why I always journal. When I make a decision like that, I write it down. In the Airbnb case, I take videos and photos. So when something amazing happens in the near future, I'm gonna be able to associate it with what I did recently, and then you're gonna keep doing it, because this is what I mean. Small successes give you the energy and the motivation to do it again. That's what we need, because it doesn't happen right away. If we don't acknowledge why it happened, then there's no reason to try again.
Yeah. And it's funny because yesterday I was driving a long distance from a gig that I played, and I was listening to a famous lecture called Make Your Wishes Your Command by Kevin Trudeau. It's very much similar to everything we talk about. And I was in my very tired, like post-gig PMSE long drive, like, man. And there was a part of me that's like, are you even manifesting anything right now? You're so into this. Is anything showing up in your life? And then immediately my phone rang and it was like, you got $100 tip last night. Let me owe you. I was like, okay, don't mind if I do. So that was cool. It was like the minute I said it is when the universe was like, yes, you are.
Good, good. Don't forget these things. They happen. If we don't notice them, they don't exist for us.
Yeah.
We're doing this to reason, but actually, at some point, you need to shut down your brain and do what I say and wait until you see results. You have to repeat it, start results, but when you do, it's going to be much easier. Because of the delay, the difference between when you do it and when you are rewarded for it, we never give it enough time to see the results.
Right.
You're going to stop questioning it for a while, ignoring completely what's going on in your physical reality. It's much more difficult for Sean because it's the 7th of the month, and I don't know what's going on with his landlord, you know. He has a bigger obligation to do it, and it's more difficult for her in terms of the intensity of the fear. So you can always find someone who's doing worse than you. That's why it's easy to counter this.
Yeah, and I really want to be able to go back to that, what you call like unrational or more magical state of consciousness, because I can be in that when everything's copacetic and chill, and then it's when these dips happen where they're the true tests. Like, how much do you believe? How much are you willing to practice the practices and test yourself?
I don't know if I came up with by myself or I heard it from someone. There is the concept of remembering the future instead of remembering the past. You can create a picture out of it. I wish we could use VR for this. If someone decides to make it, I saw someone did made a manifestation app, but you have to choose from one of the views. Doesn't make sense. You have to be able to create your perfect reality. Then if we could just watch it every day for 10, 15 minutes, it's difficult to close your eyes and visualize something and stay there. It disappears. You're interrupted by the monkey talking in our mind. So remembering the future means, again, tricking your mind into thinking that already happened. I'm so happy. I have so much money. I'm driving a Bentley. I'm flying private. What an amazing life that I have. If you repeat it, there's this, I don't know if it happens to everyone. You wake up happy and then you think, why am I happy? What happened last night?
I do that.
Okay, if you keep repeating being in this environment, the same thing happens because the conscious mind loses track of whether it's real or not. You have to do it for a long time, maybe.
Yeah. Wow. This is awesome. And I knew I'd feel like a better one just talking about it and hearing your perspective. And thanks for dealing with me when I'm in a pissy mood.
I love it. Please stop recording. I'm going to say something.
What did you say?
Never mind. I'm going to write it down.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We wrapping it up? We good?
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it was 30 minutes practical.
Yeah, about 45. That's good.
Oh, yeah, we started to. I have some editing to do. Is it going to be recorded locally or on the cloud?
Yeah. So